Corsair's Vengeance M65 RGB mouse has been well received since its release in September 2014, since it sports a solid sensor, distinctive design, and extensive software customization. However, it seems Corsair felt the need to refresh this mouse with the Corsair M65 PRO. So what has Corsair changed to give this mouse the Pro insignia, and is it enough to justify an upgrade? Available for $59.99, the M65 Pro keeps a similar price point to its predecessor, the original M65 RGB, while still targeting the high-end mouse market. The mouse is specifically targeted at FPS gamers, boasting excellent precision and features that are geared towards fast-paced first-person shooters. Let's examine the body design of the mouse. The M65 Pro has a very distinctive design, with angular cutouts at the back and the curved side grooves to support your thumb and pinky. The design is almost identical to its predecessor, with identical button layout and overall design, but there are a few subtle changes. That's not a bad thing. The M65's design was already well liked, and it continues to be great here. During my experience using the mouse, I found it to be very comfortable. I did find the back edges to be a little too angular, but I got used to them pretty quickly. The build quality is top notch too, with Corsair toting an aircraft grade aluminium unibody design, which is honestly rock solid. The M65 RGB already had an aluminium unibody design, but it seems that Corsair feels that the build is even tougher here, as that's one of the selling points of the M65 Pro. If you flip the mouse over to the bottom, you'll see the aluminium construction continues and incorporates 3 distinctive weights. The stock weight for the mouse is 115 grams, which might be a little on the heavy side for some people, although it's understandable considering the aluminium build. For those who find it too light, however, you have 3 6.85 gram weights for a total of 20.5 grams of weight adjustability, which is really nice. You can also adjust the balance of the mouse by offsetting weight on one side for even more customization. Also on the bottom are 5 PTFE feet which glide pretty smoothly, although I did find that one was scraping a little bit on the mouse mat at first, but that went away with time. Now let's switch it back to the top and do a button check. The primary left and right buttons use Omron switches, which have great tactile feedback, and here's what they sound like. I found these to be some of the most enjoyable primary clicks I've used. They're very controlled and have a distinct and satisfying actuation all round. The DPI toggles also have a very distinct actuation, as does the scroll wheel. This wheel is one of my favourites, since it has very satisfying scroll steps with heaps of control, so you won't accidentally over or under scroll in game. The only downside is that it takes a little bit too much force to engage the middle click, but otherwise I have no complaints here. Moving on to the side buttons, and the first thing you'll notice is that they're very thin and quite small, which can make them a little hard to press. But like the top ones, they also have great responsiveness and tend to be placed well for any number of hand sizes. There's also a sniper button, which sits on the right thumb and it requires enough force to actuate that it won't be pressed accidentally. Once again, it feels almost perfect. Now so far the build quality seems pretty top notch. It's comfortable and the buttons are close to perfect, which is shaping the M65 Pro to be a very compelling mouse. However, the M65 RGB also had all of these elements, so where has the M65 Pro changed? The sensor is where the upgrade has come in. The previous M65 used an 8200 DPI Vargo ADNS A9800 laser sensor, and while it was a very good unit and had pretty positive reception, Corsair's upped the game, introducing a 12,000 DPI optical sensor, the PixArt PMW336X. This is a variation of the exceedingly popular PixArt PMW3366, which has been known as one of the best sensors on the market. The difference between the 3366 and the 336X appears to be mainly in feature set, with the 336X having a higher 12,000 DPI and features like surface calibration, something which we'll look at in the software later. This sensor largely speaks for itself and really doesn't need much testing, but for the sake of thoroughness we'll go through the tests. The first thing to check is prediction, line skipping, and any other issues. As expected, the 336X has no issues here and performed well. Acceleration and deacceleration is extremely difficult to test accurately by hand, but I found no issues as expected. Testing flicks in CSGO and there's no issues present, it handles these quick motions precisely and accurately, and doesn't lose tracking at any point. In game, I found the accuracy is top notch, with the M65 Pro being enjoyable to use with the sensor highlighting how accurate it really is. I do have to question if the added DPI up to 12,000 is really needed though. In game, I use 400 DPI, and even on my desktop with dual 1440p displays, I can easily get away with 1600 to 3200 DPI. and I can't really see anyone needing that ridiculously high of a DPI. For the few people who use that sensitivity, this mouse might be appealing, but I can't say that the DPI race makes any sense to me, except for marketing. The last thing to look at is the Corsair Q software. This is the software Corsair uses for all their RGB peripherals, and it's probably one of the most feature-rich on the market right now. The first tab has your profiles, where you can configure all the settings and create profiles to store everything, as well as options to assign them to games. There's also button assignments where all the buttons can be rebound or have macros and actions assigned to them, which is great for customization. You can either create your own actions or import them, and in the Actions tab there's a full list of every available action which can be sorted by name or type. Moving on to the Lighting tab, and you have two zones to customize, the main Corsair logo and underglow, as well as the scroll wheel light. There's a quartet of profiles: Rainbow, Solid Color, Color Shift, and Color Pulse. You can also import profiles, view all your settings in the Lighting tab, and if compatible Corsair peripherals are detected, sync up colors with them as well. The lighting looks great, and the RGB functionality will be nice to have for some users. The next tab is Performance and DPI, where the DPI profiles can be set. You can also assign colors for each profile, which will show on the DPI toggle so you can get an idea of what setting you're on, something which is really useful. Meanwhile, if you set it to black, the LED will turn off completely. These profiles will also be stored in the mouse's memory, so if you don't have the software on whatever computer, you can still use your pre-customized profiles. I do wish you could choose to have the DPI toggle go on rainbow breathing mode, but it's not a big complaint. Corsair also includes pointer speed and angle snapping settings, as well as lift-off distance control. I would have liked to see more detail than just low, medium, and high, so that those who lift their mouse a lot could have full control, but at least it has something. The last area is the Device tab, where we can choose to disable the lighting, configure the polling rate up to 1000 Hz, and implement a firmware update. This is also where surface calibration is housed. The surface calibration is something which is quite interesting. You can use it to calibrate the sensor for your mouse surface in order to get the best performance from the M65 Pro, and that's a really cool feature to include. So with all the nitty-gritty details done and dusted, it's time to sum things up. As I alluded to in the start, there are two types of people wanting to buy this mouse: those who are upgrading from an M65 or M65 RGB, and those who are looking to buy a new mouse. Is it worth the upgrade from the M65 RGB? Probably not. Unless you really need that improved sensor and extra DPI, you're not going to be getting much out of the upgrade. If you're coming from the original M65 and really want that RGB lighting, improved sensor, and slight redesigns, it might be worth it, but for many people they'll be more than happy with the original M65. And if you're looking for a new mouse, if you want to save some cash and can give up the RGB lighting, then the original M65 is a steal, considering it keeps most of what's loved about this mouse for the much lower price. However, it's probably worth the extra $5 or so to go from the M65 RGB to the Pro, and get that improved sensor and slightly better build. The M65 Pro really doesn't bring that much new to the table, but you can't really blame it. Corsair knew they didn't need to completely overhaul something that was already so good. The M65 RGB was already a great mouse, and the Pro makes it even better, bringing that Pixar PMW336X sensor and improved build quality. For those who like the design of the M65 Pro, it's one of the best FPS mice on the market, and is well deserving of the Hardware Canucks Damn Good award. So thank you for watching everyone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and comment if you have any questions or feedback. I'm Maiden with Hardware Canucks, make sure to subscribe for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.